Hi, Richard Smith here from the Finance Zone, your personal financial planning coach. Over the past couple of months I've been talking to everyone about the issues in relation to personal pensions, personal pension switching and personal pension advice, and I wanted to draw your attention to a publication which was produced by one of the consumer groups called Consumer Focus in July of 2011. And what this report was looking at was the issues of pension transfer advice that's been provided by advisors out there in the marketplaces and the high street, and these advisors are made up of independent financial advisors, side advisors and bank and building society based advisors up and down the country. The reason they carried out the review was really straightforward in that a lot of these reviews have been carried out in the past and are found to be proven that the advice provided then in relation to switching was pretty poor, and Consumer Focus wanted to go back and have a look just to see whether or not the industry had indeed cleaned itself up. The findings of course were pretty poor, because they found very quickly that the quality of pension advice and pension transfer advice and pension switching advice was not quite as good as they thought it was going to be. More importantly, this is not the first time this has been picked up, and indeed Consumer Focus has now flagged that back to the Financial Services Authority, which is a regulator, to say, you know, look, this needs to be sorted out. One of the things we do over here at the Finance Zone is to look very carefully at this issue of pensions and pension charges and the reasons for switching a pension from one provider to another. Now, of course, we know full well there are some old school providers out there that are charging 3 or 4 or 5% a year to manage pension funds, which, you know, the market, an investment market like we've seen over the past couple of years, is a bit of a disaster really, because your pension pot is just being, you know, dwindled away because of charges. And I wanted to outline two things to you today. The first thing is this issue in relation to pensions and pensions advice, and that because there is a competitive market, it is vitally important that you look at your pension and compare the charges with those other providers in the marketplace. But that's not the only thing we should be looking at. There are other implications, which is why we provide some more guidance from the various websites linked into the financezone.co.uk. We do obviously give you the tools to be able to do it yourself. You don't need advice in all fairness to do this stuff, and that you will obviously benefit from a far lower level of charges. Anyway, the full report in relation to pensions and pension switching and advice in the individual personal pensions market is available from consumerfocus.org.uk, and it was dated the 20th of July 2011, so it's relatively easy to find. Before you go there, I just wanted to highlight a couple of issues in relation to the effect of charges on your overall pension pot and your overall pension planning. So we look here, this is a compound interest calculator from Sussex University, and we're assuming here that we've got a pension pot of £20,000, and we're going to get a 5% annual return. We're going to ignore charges at the moment, 5% annual return over the next 20 years. And what that's going to do for you is to turn your £20,000 pension pot into £53,065. In all fairness, you know, depending on the future growth in the investment markets, a 5% rate of return is probably going to be viewed as reasonable by most people. The problem I have is that you actually need a lot more than that to live on. It certainly isn't going to keep you into any lifestyle to which you become accustomed. £20,000 now and £53,000 at some stage in the future really ain't going to keep the wolf from the door. What I do want to do with this calculator is to highlight for you the effect of charges within an investment contract, in particular a pension contract. Now, as you may be aware, most independent financial advisors and bank-based advisors get a level of what they call renewal income or renewal commission, which is paid for out of your pension pot. And for most financial advisors, they should be providing you with a level of ongoing servicing in order to continue receiving that commission. Some do, many don't. It's vitally important that you check and review to find out exactly what the situation is with your pension plan. So if we take this 5% annual rate of return and reduce that by 1.5%, which gives us a 3.5% rate of return. Now 1.5% is a pretty low charging pension contract in the marketplace. If your only charges are 1.5%, that means you're going to end up with some sort of stakeholder type contract. But if you're in a straightforward ordinary personal pension, you'll be getting far higher charges than that. But let's say that we get a £20,000 fund value. We get an annual rate of return net of charges of 3.5%, which is 5% growth over a 20-year period. We actually get a fund value at the end of 20 years of £39,795. Now, based on my reckoning, that's the best part of £13,000 short. So 13,000 of your fund will disappear in charges. Now, as a percentage of the initial fund value, that's over half. Over 50% of your fund value disappears in charges over a 20-year period. You do the maths yourself. If you wanted to call that, 100,000 pension pot, we can do the calculations for you straight away. And we can take that at 5%, and we can say if you were to take £100,000 at 5%, you'd end up with 265329.77. Move that down to 3.5%, and you're left with 198. Well, I'm hoping, of course, that you firmly believe your pension provider and your independent financial advisor or your bank-based advisor is worth that sort of money, because that's effectively what you're paying to have your pension. Of course, if we go back to the original 20,000 fund value, and let's do the maths again. Let's say, for example, we've got a 5% growth rate, which gives us a 53,000. Let's say we bring that down to 3%, so you've got a 2% annual charge, which is not far out of sync with some of the older style contracts. You're down to 36,100, which is best part of 17,000. You're worse off. At current retirement annuity rates, that could provide you with an income of £2,000 a year, realistically. Maybe more, maybe less. Anyway, all I'm trying to do here is make a point in that what you need to be doing in relation to your personal pension planning is, yes, comparing your provider in the marketplace to make sure you're paying the lowest level of charges possible. From our perspective, there are providers in the marketplace which would charge you less than 0.5%. So, for example, that £20,000 pension pot, if you're paying a 0.5% charge, assuming 5% growth, you'll be left with 48,000, a bit different to the 39 from the average provider in the marketplace. Anyway, my name is Richard Smith. I'm one part of the business called the Finance Zone. We are personal financial planning coaches and able to provide you with advice and information which allows you to make your own decisions about what you should and shouldn't be doing in and around your personal financial planning. Thank you very much for your time today, and if there's any questions or queries, you can certainly get in touch with us through the website.